everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. Coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. In this one, folks, we are going to be looking at where the Toronto Blue Jays are actually standing walking in to 2026, taking a look at the entire roster, breaking it down. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What do they need to do, if anything, before opening day to get themselves in a prime spot to go back to the World Series? You guys let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below. Please make sure to hit that like, smash that subscribe button, hit the hype button too if you have the option to. And also, Happy New Year to everybody. This is coming out on January 1st. So if you are cripplingly hungover, do your best to power through that. But hopefully 2026 is going to be an awesome freaking year. Let's immediately flash over to that Toronto Blue Jays roster right now. Now, the first question that I think I have, and we're going to kind of assume here that or I guess think about this team with no Bo Bichette on it, because we don't have him right now, with no Kyle Tucker on it, we don't have him right now. If we do get him, maybe we'll readjust and do another video. But the biggest question for me that I have is, can this offense be as good as they were last year?
Yeah, that is the number one question, because you look over at what they did last year. Number one in average, number one in on base, number 4 in runs scored. Even some of the critics out there are saying they had no power. Well, they were 11th in home runs. Like, that's still pretty damn good for an offense right there. And right now, you're looking at an offense that doesn't have many guys leaving other than Bo Bichette. And there's a classic argument that always comes up when regarding Bo Bichette. If he leaves and this was the offense right now, well, all these people out there are saying, oh, well, we got to the World Series without him anyway, so it does not matter. Well, guys, there's a thing called 162 games in the regular season, and during those 162 games, not every single person was popping the hell off like they were in the postseason. Barsha was going crazy, Vladdy was going crazy, George was being George, everyone was doing very good, even Alejandro Kirk. But over 162, you're going to need guys like Bo Bichette who are consistently putting up base hits. That's a major factor when you're considering going and getting 94 wins and competing for the AL East or the American League crown, when you're losing a guy like Bo Bichette who can give you that many hits any given day. So it is a big loss for me.
Yeah, it definitely is a major loss not having him in there. I do think there's a lot of recency bias with people looking at this team, looking at this offense. They think about that last month that we watched, which is playoffs, and how historically incredible the offense is. And, we just kind of like, our brains expect that to continue, but that might not be the case, because that was like historical levels of performances from not just one, but multiple individuals. And that's really hard to do over the course of a full 162. I also think just inherently, when you're looking at some of these people, is George Springer going to have an OPS of 959 next year? Like, he might. It's possible, but there's also maybe even a greater possibility that those numbers going to drop down a little bit. Now, you could say the alternative to some of these other people, could Santander be a bit better? I think 100%. And you're going to see some positive movement from some of these individuals. But large in part, it's very difficult to stay at number one in average and number one in on base, especially when you're losing, somebody like Bo Bichette right now. So for me, I do think that this offense is good enough to answer the question, but I also think that, there is going to be a little bit of a regression here.
Yeah, that you have to expect it, right? And, like you said, there will be guys bouncing back and some guys regressing a little bit. But yeah, you have to expect it to be a little bit of a regression, especially when you're considering losing Bo Bichette. So with all that being said, though, I still think they're going to be a top 10, maybe even top 5 offense still next season, right? Like, I don't think David Popkin's strategy is just going to fly out the window and everyone's going to forget how to get all those base hits and make great contact, put up gritty at-bats. They're still going to have the same game plan, whether it be with Bo Bichette or without Bo Bichette. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of regression, but is that going to really affect the overall team to try to get back to the World Series? I think you're going to need some positive regression from other parts of your team.
Well, that's the thing, right? You can still make playoffs and you can still be a force being a top 10 offense. So being top 10 is good. And I agree with you. Like, I certainly don't see a reality where this team, after what they did last year, some of the breakout performances, and also too, right, we're kind of expecting some guys to get better. Could Addison Barger do a bit more? Could Anthony Santander do a bit more? I think yes. Right. So I certainly don't see them falling out of the top 10. Where I think this team needs to see improvement, if we're expecting a little bit of offensive regression, is to have some more weight carried by the starting pitching. In 2020, I believe it was 2023, that unit was incredible. And you had 5 guys with ERAs like in the mid 3s all of them throwing 150 innings,
Yeah.
and that was incredible. And
Four guys too. It was like Kikuchi,
Yeah.
Bassett, Gosman, and oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Barrios.
Thank you. Like that was an anomaly. But now you're looking at this year, and it was completely different. Where you don't necessarily have all that studs at the 4 studs. You got a couple studs, but like we didn't find those studs until later in the season with Bieber and Savage.
And I'm certainly not asking the team to get back to that place where it's just like incredible stuff from every single starter. Like anyone can win a game for you. Anyone could start a playoff game even for you if they were to have made it in. But I do think that last year, if Toronto wins a game, it is always the offense that's popping off. Very rarely did you ever see a series go by where, this was the pitching that carried this series. 2 out of the 3 games, we put up, a 1 run over 9 innings. Like that just almost never happened.
Right.
And I do think that for this team to be successful, if we're expecting a little bit of offensive regression, okay, well, where can that be picked up? They invested so much money in the pitching staff. How about there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look over what happened last year, it's kind of surprising when you do take a look back at it. They were 20th in ERA and somehow were the #1 team in the American League. And it's because of the offense and the bullpen being average. We'll talk about the bullpen a little bit. But that is kind of crazy when you look at it. And I expected going into the postseason that we were going to have a lot of troubles with the pitching staff. Luckily, we did find some stability with Savage, and Gosman was really hot at the time. Bieber, Max Scherzer turning back the clock, but we're going to need that stability over a full 162. And I do love what they've done with the rotation. Kevin Gosman, as we know, is a consistent guy. We know exactly what we're going to expect from him at the age of 35. Dylan Cease, I love this signing. You guys know this if you're an OG here on the channel. I think he's going to take a huge step forward, maybe add a changeup to mix, as Pete Walker and Dylan Cease have mentioned in a couple interviews. Work on that command to be great. Bieber in a full year back has something to prove to hit free agency next year. Savage, that's a question I want to bring up in a little bit. What's he going to do? And then Cody Ponce throwing in the KBO MVP. It's deeper. I think it's going to be more sustainable over a 162, especially now that you got, even Barrios and Lauer as options out of that bullpen to maybe come in and be a 6th starter or an injury cover guy. But, I think overall it's going to be more consistent. But the one guy I want to highlight here is Trey Savage. What are we going to expect from him? That's a question I want to throw out there because everyone has very high expectations of the kid. What are you expecting right now from a Trey Savage?
Where we stand right now is that he is walking into next season as a locked-in starting pitcher, and I think that is absolutely how it should be. But I am not expecting him to come out and pitch to a 3.21 ERA over 162. Like that just feels like a lot
of expectation.
It's honestly, it almost feels like irresponsible of me to expect and be like, oh yeah, you did it in the playoffs, so obviously we're going to lock you in and you're going to be that guy. Now, if he wants to become the ace of this squad, I mean, dude, like have the reins, because that is, I think, honestly, maybe the one thing that we were missing last year. Gosman, yes, he was good, but our quote unquote ace had a 3.59 ERA, right? Like you look over at Boston and, some of the other like Yankees, elite American League teams, their aces, they're flirting with, sub 2, right? So it's like you want to have somebody do that. I would love it for Trey Savage to become that guy. I think that they've done an incredible job at constructing this rotation to take a little bit of that pressure off, because realistically, who should be the ace next year? I think it should probably be Dylan Cease with the contract that he just got paid. Maybe even Shane Bieber, because he's done it in the past. And if Kevin Gosman wants to keep that up, 100%. Trey Savage, for me, let him develop. Don't put all the pressure on him. And like, if we do end up seeing it, if we end up seeing an ERA under 4 by the end of next year, I will be very happy with that.
Massive win. You also got to remember in the playoffs, he did struggle against some, obviously very good offenses. He had like a +4 ERA. So like it was up there, even though he had the strikeout stuff, it was still up there. I think you make a good point. Like, you're giving him time to make adjustments, right, to the rest of the league, because they're going to adjust to him. All we've seen is fastball splitter and a little bit of that slider. Well, if they start adjusting to his tendencies, the offenses that he's facing, and they start attacking him, you don't want to put all the pressure on him like, okay, but dude, we're expecting you to be our number 2, number 3. You could be our number 4, number 5, even if Cody Ponce wants to step up.
Look, you could go back to AAA with Jose Barrios. You know what I mean? It's like you could do that if we needed you to.
Exactly, right? So overall, I think we both agree this pitching staff, the starting rotation specifically, is a lot better at the beginning of this year compared to last year. And with that being said, I think over a full 162, thinking about some injuries that could possibly happen now that we have that depth, I think this pitching staff should be a lot better. And in my opinion, I think this rotation is going to be, we're flirting with, we talked about this on a show one time, probably flirting with a top 10 when it's all said and done, in my opinion.
Well, look, if we're just, let's think about the hitting and let's think about the starters here. Okay, you lost Bo Bichette. That is definitely a big loss. And they haven't really added anything at all to the hitting side of things. So, okay, big loss right there for sure. But then you brought in Dylan Cease, you brought in Cody Ponce. You're gonna have Trey Savage. It almost feels like an acquisition bringing in Trey Savage right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you got back Shane Bieber. So you feel like you've made up for that loss of Bo Bichette in the offense and then some. So whilst I do believe that the offense might not be number one in everything again next year, hoping that they're going to be a top 10 team, if they regress, 5-6 spots in effectively every single category, that's okay for me if those starters can bump themselves up and become what really should be a top 12 unit in baseball.
Yeah.
Think about all the money that's being invested in that starting rotation. With all of that capital, with all of those finances behind them, this actually needs to be a top 12 rotation in baseball. And I think that's even being a little liberal with it, right? Like with all of everything that's invested.
Yeah, because you also got to imagine there will be some positive regression, like we're saying with the offense. Same thing with the pitching staff, right? With Dylan Cease and with Shane Bieber and whatnot. So yeah, top 12 is well within the right. So if you're kind of netting that, right, like it almost feels like the positive impact of the rotation is going to be greater than the regression of the offense. You know what I mean? So if you're adding all that money, you should be theoretically getting better. But there is one part of this team left, and that is the bullpen. And we were just talking about this before we recorded, and we're not really sure if the Blue Jays really did what they needed to do to address the problems in that pen.
I'll tell you what, man, I do love the addition of Tyler Rogers. I mean, that's an easy thing. Like, oh, great analysis, Nick. You fucking idiot.
He's obviously awesome.
You know what I mean? So, yes, that's an awesome acquisition right there. And I think that is going to help the bullpen immensely. But that's really the only thing of note here. I guess other than you could argue, is Barrios actually going to do it? I still haven't really wrapped my head around Barrios becoming a bullpen guy. They have him slotted in there. I guess I just have a hard time visualizing that. Eric Lauer, sure, we saw it at the end, but is Barrios really going to do that? Tough to say.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, with how volatile bullpens can be, and then really how volatile Jeff Hoffman was last year, I am still decently concerned about this pen. I think that they certainly have a lot of upside there, but I think that a glass half empty individual could argue that there's still a lot of volatility still in there as well. So I'm definitely not as convinced about the bullpen as I am with the starters. It's fine. It's just, I don't know if that's going to be the strength of the team necessarily.
That's the thing. And I think they got lots of depth. And we've said this in previous podcasts. When you go at all these guys, we're talking about Mason Fluharty in the minors right now, according to Fangraphs. And you got, Braden Fisher in the minors and some other individuals that are in the minors that could come up at one point. It's just, I'm looking at the potential upside and, get granted, bullpen at any given year could have great upside. Any individual could be phenomenal. Jeff Hoffman, I've been saying it for a while. I think a bounce back is well within the right. Like, he's been good for the last couple of years. This year, first year in Toronto, a little shaky. Any given year, he could be back to Jeff Hoffman in Philly. But then there's Jimmy Garcia. Injury history. We're not really sure how he's going to bounce back. He's been kind of struggling bouncing back last couple of years. Rogers pretty solid. Varland had a great year last year, but still young. You don't know what the kid's going to do in his second, third year in the league. So there's a lot of question marks even around like Little, Nance, and like you said, Barrios, we know Lauer a little bit, but lots of question marks. Overall, I could easily see his bullpen being a bottom 10 unit, or I could see them being just on the fringe of a top 10 unit if all things fall our way. But more likely than not, I think they're going to be right around where they were, or maybe even a little bit less, in my opinion.
I get that, man. Yeah, it's like ultimately, I just think that there's a couple too many question marks. Like for me, it boils down to three guys actually, and it's Jeff Hoffman being the final guy. I'm still not convinced there. Like, I hope that there's a bounce back, but it needs to be a major bounce back, right? If you're going to be the closer, you're theoretically, supposed to be one of, if not the best pitcher on the team, right? And that just wasn't the case last year. Jimmy Garcia, having him slotted in as the setup man, I mean, this is obviously just Fangraphs doing what they're doing, but like, if that's what we're walking into the season with, that's concerning to me because he barely pitched last year and he has been injured a whole lot. And then also Brendan Little being effectively the only lefty to put out fires. I know that Eric Lauer is there, but you have to imagine it's a different role, right? So the only lefty to come into situations where, you're up against the big lefties of the world, right? The top of the Yankees lineup or the top of the Orioles lineup, being Brennan Little. That just wasn't a fun experience for me last year, and we're still rolling with it. So yeah, for me, I'm kind of with you there. I think that the bullpen's largely going to remain maybe the same, if not a slight regression. Ultimately, though, now that we've gone through the entire roster, we have to answer the question, where does this team stand walking into 2026? Do you believe that they have gotten better, even though Bo Bichette's not on this team? Do you think that the roster, as it is today, and who knows, maybe we could get Bo, we could get Tucker, we're still in all those conversations, but if we don't, is this current roster enough to go back to the playoffs? And then more importantly, once you're in the playoffs, make an actual splash, make some noise.
Yeah, again, I'll say this right now. I don't know anything. Surprise. I'm a guy in my living room talking on a microphone, but if I'm going
that's not true. No. You are an expert on the Toronto Blue Jays. You are.
Okay, I am an expert. I talk about this team every single day, but if I am going to give my opinion, then yeah. I do think they've got a great chance to go back into a deep playoff run. Obviously, this team has gotten a little bit better in terms of the acquisitions in the starting pitching role. I would like to see them get Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker. If they go do that, then I'm slapping the World Series contender or bust kind of thing right there. World Series or bust on the Blue Jays if they got, Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. But right now, they're right where they were, maybe even a little bit greater because of that pitching rotation, because pitching inevitably does win you championships, as we saw in the World Series. So yeah, I would say right now, they're still in a very good spot, but I think we all have bigger aspirations, not just coming second in the World Series. We want to win it all, and that starts with getting Bo or Tucker.
Yeah, I think the best news for Toronto, honestly, is looking around the competition-wise. Yes, Baltimore is getting better, but some of the big dogs, right? Has New York done a whole lot? I don't know. I don't really think so.
They've done nothing.
Yeah, it's
Ahmed Rosario,
right? Is this the big time acquisition? Are they the scary, team that we're up against? They haven't really done a whole lot, and I mean, Seattle does still worry me quite a bit. I definitely think that this team walking into 2026, they are a playoff squad. They are 100% a playoff squad. They should be in the mix once again, barring, serious unforeseen circumstances, to win their division again. And that's got to be the goal of every squad starting a season. It's, can we win our division? If the answer is yes, we're in a good spot. I believe that the answer is yes for the Toronto Blue Jays with this roster. That's without Bo. That's without Tucker. Now, should the Yankees go and get Tucker, and should the Red Sox go get Bo, maybe we can have a different conversation, because that would be some big swings going in their direction. But right now, I really like this team, and I think that they are honestly going to, one, live and die by two things. It's David Popkin's philosophy. Is that going to translate to a following year, or have some of the reports gotten out to other teams and they're starting to figure out how to deal with our lineup? If the answer is David Popkin's philosophy still works, we're gonna fucking rock and roll. And then number two, you got to see that all of that money in that pitching staff, all of it has to translate into being a little bit better than the 20th ranked ERA.
Yeah.
And did you know their starting pitcher 28th in home runs given up?
Yeah, I believe
That's
it.
not good.
Barrios, Gosman, Scherzer, they gave up a lot of home runs, but luckily 4 of our 5 starting pitchers entering in 2025 are not the same anymore. And in fact, you could argue they might be even a little bit better walking in to 2025. So yeah,
2026.
Or excuse me, 2026. Wow, hello, happy New Year, everybody. But yeah, I agree. The team's identity is going to still have to weigh on that offense to be where they were last year. Offense wins games. It puts up runs on the board, and we saw it last year. But I think adding a little bit more security and limiting other offenses is going to be huge for the Blue Jays in 2026. So with that being said, yeah, I think the Blue Jays are in a good spot, but they could be in a better spot if they go make one more move.
Yes, I would like to see them do a little bit more. But again, should we walk in and with this team, I would still be okay with it. I'd be a little sour grapes, but a little disappointed.
Yeah, a little disappointed.
Would still be all right with it. But you folks, let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below. Please make sure to hit that like, smash that subscribe button. $4 a month, become a YouTube member. And thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are amazing.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
Go Jays, go!